Chapter 21. The Great River Sam Woke Frodo. He found himself lying, well wrapped, beneath a tall, grey-barked tree at the edge of a wood on the western shore of the great river, Anduin. He had slept through the night, and the grey light of morning was faintly glimmering through the bare branches. Gimli was already busy kindling a small fire nearby. They started again before the sun climbed high. Most of the company were in no hurry to go southward. They were content that no decision need yet be made until they reached Rauros and the Isle of Tindrock, still several days ahead, and they let the river bear them on in its gentle current, with no eagerness to draw nearer to the perils that awaited beyond, whichever road they might choose in the end. Aragorn allowed the boats to drift as they would, to spare their strength against the weariness that must soon come. Yet he insisted that they set out early each day and go far before nightfall, for in his heart he felt that time was pressing, and he feared that the Dark Lord would not sit idle while they lingered in Lorien. However, that day they saw no sign of any enemy, and the next day passed likewise. The hours slipped by in dull sameness, uneventful and quiet. But on the third day of their journey the land slowly began to change. The trees grew thinner and stood farther apart. On the western bank, to their left, they saw shapeless rocky slopes rising high toward the sky, their colour dry and brown, as though fire had swept across them, leaving not a blade of green, a barren and unfriendly waste, with neither a broken tree nor a heavy stone to lessen its emptiness. They had come to the Brown Lands, wide and desolate between the southern end of Mirkwood and the hills of Emyn Muil. Even Aragorn could not tell whether plague or war or some dark enchantment of the enemy had laid this blight upon the land. To the right, on the eastern side, stretched another treeless region, but it was flatter, and patches of green showed where wide meadows spread out. They passed among reedy shallows by the river's edge, where tall rushes grew thick, so high that they shut out all view of the west. The small boats rustled softly through their quivering stems. Their withered, blackened plumes bent and broke in the cold air, whispering mournfully. Here and there, through openings in the reeds, Frodo caught fleeting glimpses of grassy flats, and beyond them, far in the fading light, the distant hills, and beyond those, dim and far away, the southern reaches of the misty mountains. No living thing moved in sight, save birds. There were many kinds, small ones chirping shrilly among the reeds, though seldom seen. Once or twice the travellers heard the whir of great wings and the cry of swans, and looking up, they beheld a wide flight gliding in the sky. "Swans," said Sam, "and great ones too." "Yes," said Aragorn, "and they are black swans." "This land is so wide, so empty and dreary," said Frodo. "I always thought that going south would bring warmth and brightness, until winter was far behind." "But we have not gone far enough south," Aragorn answered. "It is still winter, and we are far from the sea. The world here remains cold until sudden spring comes. Indeed, we may yet see snow. Down in the Bay of Belfalas, where Anduin flows out, it is warm and bright. Or so it would be, were it not for the shadow. But here I guess we are no more than 60 miles south of the Shire's southern borders, still hundreds of miles to go. You now look upon the northwestern plain of Rohan, the Riddermark, land of the Horse Lords. Soon we shall come to the mouth of the Limelight, flowing down from Fangorn and joining the great river. That marks the northern boundary of Rohan, and in elder days the land between Limelight and the White Mountains belonged to the Rohirrim. It was a rich and pleasant country, and its pastures unequalled. But in these evil days men dwell no longer by the river, nor ride often along its banks. Anduin is wide, yet orcs can shoot their arrows far across it, and men say that later they dared not cross the river to till the lands of Rohan beyond. Sam glanced uneasily from bank to bank. Once the trees had seemed unfriendly, as if secret eyes were watching and hidden dangers lurking among them. Now he wished that those trees were still there. He felt that the company was terribly exposed, drifting in small open boats through an unguarded land, on a river that had long been a boundary of war. After another day or two, their sense of insecurity deepened. They paddled hard from dawn till dusk, pressing on with speed. The banks slipped swiftly by. The river widened and grew deeper. Long lines of stony shore appeared along the eastern side, and shoals of gravel rose from the water so that they must steer carefully. The brown lands stretched away, bleak and empty, while cold winds blew upon them from the east. Across the river, meadows led down to withered flats and reedy swamps. Frodo shivered, thinking of the sunlit woods and soft rains of Lothlorien. There was little talk and no laughter in any of the boats. Each member of the company was busy with his own thoughts. The heart of Legolas beat fast beneath the summer stars of far northern glades beneath oak woods. Gimli's mind wandered to gold, wondering if it was worthy to forge in the lady's gift house. Merry and Pippin, in the middle boat, were sick of idleness. For Boromir sat muttering to himself, sometimes biting his lips as if unease or doubt possessed him. Now and again he seized a paddle and drew near to Aragorn's boat. Then Pippin, sitting in the bow and looking back, saw his eyes glint strangely as he stared toward Frodo ahead. As for Sam, though he had come to think the boats were not as perilous as he once feared, they were still far more troublesome than he had ever imagined. He was cramped and aching, with nothing to do but stare gloomily at the wintry lands drifting by on either side under the grey current. Even when the paddles dipped, it did not cheer him. At dusk on the fourth day, as he looked wearily back at the bowed heads of Frodo and Aragorn in the boat behind, sleep crept upon him, and he longed for a campfire and the feel of solid ground beneath his feet. Then suddenly something flashed across his sight. At first he looked at it dully, then he sat up and rubbed his eyes. But when he looked again, it was gone. That night they camped on a small eyot near the western bank. Sam lay curled in his blanket beside Frodo. "I had a strange dream before we stopped for a rest, Mr. Frodo," he said. "Or maybe it wasn't a dream at all. Anyway, it was queer, that's certain." "Well, what was it?" said Frodo, knowing that Sam would not settle until he had told his tale, whatever it was. "I've neither seen nor thought of anything to make me smile since we left Lothlorien." "It wasn't funny in that way, Mr. Frodo. It was queer, like I said." "All wrong if it wasn't a dream, and you'd best hear it. It was like this. I saw a log with eyes." "A log, very well," said Frodo. "There are plenty of those on the river, but let's leave out the eyes." "I won't, begging your pardon," said Sam. "It was the eyes that made me sit up. I saw that I was looking at a log floating along behind Gimli's boat in the twilight, but I paid it no mind. Then, all at once, it seemed to me that the log was slowly overtaking us, which was strange, you see, for we were all on the same stream. And right then I saw the eyes, two pale points gleaming at the top of the thing near one end. What's more, it wasn't a log at all, for it had paddling limbs, like a swan's feet, only bigger, dipping in and out of the water. That's when I sat up and rubbed my eyes, meaning to give a shout if it was still there when I cleared the sleep from my head, for the whatever it was coming up fast and close behind Gimli. But whether it was only two flickering lights or I was truly awake, I can't tell. When I looked again, it was gone. Still, I think I caught sight, as folks say, out of the corner of my eye, of something dark slipping away under the shadow of the western bank. But I could see no eyes any more. I said to myself, "You're dreaming again, Sam Gamgee," I said, and so I said nothing more. But I've been thinking all sorts of things, and now I'm not so sure.
"What do you think of this, Mr. Frodo?"
"I think I thought of nothing, save a log, and the twilight, and the sleep in your eyes, Sam," said Frodo, "if that's the first time those eyes have been spotted. But it is not. I'd seen them away in the north before we came to Lorien, and I saw a strange creature with those eyes climbing the flet that night. Haldir saw it too.
And do you remember the report of the elves that went after the orc band? Ah, said Sam, I do, and I remember many other things too. I don't like my thoughts.
But I keep thinking from one thing to another, the stories of Mr. Bilbo and all the other stories. I think I could put a name on this creature, a guess only.
A nasty name, Gollum, perhaps?
Yes, that is what I have also sometimes feared, said Frodo. Since that night on the Flet, I think he was lurking in Moria and followed our path, but I hoped that our rest in Lorien would throw him off the stage. That miserable creature must have been hiding in the woods by the Silverlode and watching us depart. Just so, said Sam, and we ought to watch ourselves, or else we will feel those slimy fingers around our necks one of these nights, if we are still awake to feel anything. And that's what I meant. There's no need to trouble Strider or the others tonight.
I will keep watch.
Tomorrow I can sleep no different from a piece of luggage on a boat, as you might say. One might say that, said Frodo, and one might say a piece of luggage with eyes. You shall keep watch, but only if you promise to wake me at midnight, if nothing happens before then. Frodo started from a deep and dark sleep some hours later when Sam shook him. I am ashamed to wake you, Sam whispered, but you said so. There's nothing to tell, not much.
I think I heard some soft splashing and a sniffing noise for a moment.
But you often hear such strange noises by a riverbank at night. He lay down, and Frodo sat up, pushed his blankets aside, and fought against his sleepiness. The hours passed slowly and nothing happened. Frodo was just about to yield to the longing to lie down again when a shadow, vague and formless, drifted near one of the moored boats. A pale hand could dimly be seen reaching out and grasping the gunwale. A pair of eyes, bright as lamps, shone coldly as if they were lit from within, and then they looked up and gazed towards the island where Frodo was. They were no more than 1 or 2 yards away, and Frodo heard a faint hiss from an unrecognizable breath. He stood up, drew Sting from its sheath, and looked towards the eyes.
Instantly their light went out.
There was a hiss and a splash, and a dark, log-shaped shadow shot away down the stream and vanished into the night.
Aragorn started, turned over, and sat up. What is it?
He whispered, standing up and coming towards Frodo. I felt something in my sleep. Why have you drawn your sword?
Gollum, Frodo answered.
Or at least I guess so. Ah,
Aragorn said.
So you know about our little footpad, do you? He has followed us all through Moria and down the Nimrodal. Since we took to boats, he has been lying on a log and paddling with hands and feet. I have tried to catch him once or twice at night, but he is slyer than a fox and as slippery as a fish. I hoped the river voyage would beat him, but he is a clever boatman. We shall have to try going faster tomorrow. Now you lie down, and I will keep watch to see what else the night holds.
I wish I could lay my hands on the wretch.
We might make him useful, but if I cannot, then we shall have to try and lose him. He is very dangerous. Besides his murderous night style, he may yet put enemies on our track. The night passed without Gollum showing so much as a shadow again. After that, the company was always watchful, but they saw nothing more of Gollum for the rest of the journey. If he was still following, he was very wary and cunning. Aragorn had them row long hours, and the banks sped by. But they saw little of the country, for their voyage now was mostly by night and in twilight, and they rested by day, and they lay hidden in such places as the land afforded. So it went on until the 7th day. The weather was still grey and overcast with wind from the east, but as the evening shadows stretched out into night, the sky far away in the west cleared, and a pallid, faint light, yellow and greenish, widened under the grey clouds. A thin white sliver of a new moon could be seen, gleaming out from the distant lakes. Sam looked back and scowled at it. The next day, the country on either side began to change faster. The banks began to rise and become stony. They soon passed into a region of high hills, and on either side of the river were steep slopes buried in deep thickets of thorn, tangled with brambles and creepers. Behind them were broken cliffs and grey ravines strewn with tumbled dark stones, and beyond those again were high peaks with wind-writhed fir trees. They were reaching out towards the grey hill country of the Emyn Muil, the southern part of the wilder land. There were many birds on the cliffs and in the ravines, and all day flocks of them wheeled overhead, dark against the pale sky. That day, when they lay in their camp, Aragorn watched the flights with doubt in his eyes, wondering if Gollum had been doing some mischief, and the news of their journey was now abroad in the wild. Then later, as the sun set and the company was roused and ready to start again, he suddenly pointed to a dark spot against the fading light, a great bird, high and far away, wheeling and then flying slowly towards the south. "What is that, Legolas?" he asked, pointing to the northern sky. "Is it, as I think, an eagle?" "Yes," said Legolas.
It is an eagle, a hunting eagle.
"I wonder what that forebodes." "It is far from the mountains." "We will not start until it is fully dark," said Aragorn. The 8th night of their journey came. It was pitilessly dark and fitfully calm. The grey east wind had passed away. The thin crescent of the moon had fallen early into the pale sunset. The skies were wide and clear, but in the south there was a distant glow, a faint light, flickering and trembling, beyond the circle of sight. "Now, away," said Aragorn. "We will risk another journey by night. We are coming to reaches of the river that I do not know well, for I have never journeyed by water in these parts before, not between here and the rapids of Sarn Gebir. But if I am right, there are long miles ahead still, and there are many perils even before we come there, shelves and stony eyots in the stream. We must keep a sharp watch and not try to paddle too fast." Sam in the leading boat was the lookout. He crouched in the bows, peering into the gloom. The night grew dark, but the stars above were strangely bright, and there was a glimmer on the face of the river. It was close on midnight, and they had been drifting for some while, hardly using the paddles when Sam cried out. Only a few yards ahead, dark shapes loomed in the stream, and he heard the swirl of racing water. There was a rush of water as the river swung round to the left, and the eastern shore rose up, a steep bank of stone. As they were swept aside, the travellers could see, now very near, the pale foam of the river churning among sharp black rocks that thrust out far into the stream like a ridge of teeth. The boats were huddled together. "Back, back," cried Aragorn. "Turn!"
"Turn if you can."
He drove his paddle into the water, trying to hold the boat and swing it round.
"I am out of my reckoning," he said to Frodo. "I did not know that we had come so far. Anduin flows faster than I thought."
Sarn Gebir must be close at hand. With great efforts, they checked the boats and slowly drew them back. And at first, they made little headway against the current, and all the time they were carried nearer and nearer to the eastern shore.
Now the darkness was deepening. "All together paddle,"
shouted Boromir. "Paddle!"
"or we shall be driven on the shoals." Even as he spoke, Frodo felt the keel beneath him grate upon stone. At that moment there was a twang of bowstrings, several arrows whistled over them, and some fell among them.
One smote Frodo between the shoulders, and he lurched forward with a cry, letting go his paddle, but the arrow fell back, foiled by his hidden coat of mail. Another passed through Aragorn's hood, and a third stood fast in the gunwale of the second boat close by Merry's hand. Sam thought he could see black shapes running to and fro upon the long shingle banks that lay under the eastern shore. They seemed very near. "Irk," said Legolas, falling into his own tongue. "Orcs!" cried Gimli. "This was a trap of Gollum's doing, I'll be bound," said Sam to Frodo. "And a nice place to choose, too. The river seems set on taking us right into their hands." They bent their backs and laboured desperately against the current. Even Sam took a paddle. At every moment they expected to feel the bite of black-feathered arrows. Many whined overhead or struck the water nearby, but no more hit them. It was dark, but not too dark for the night eyes of orcs, and in the star glimmer they must have offered their cunning foes some mark, unless it was that the grey cloaks of Lorien and the grey timber of the elf-wrought boats defeated the malice of the archers of Mordor. They toiled on. In the darkness, it was hard to be sure that they were moving at all, but the swell of the water grew less, and the shadow of the eastern bank faded back into the night. At last, as far as they could judge, they had reached the middle of the stream again and had driven their boats back far over the water. Then they turned and thrust them with all their strength towards the western shore. They paused for breath under the shadow of a bush overhanging the water. Legolas laid down his paddle and took up the bow that he had brought from Lorien. Then he sprang ashore and climbed a few paces up the bank. He stringed the bow and fitted an arrow, and then turned and looked back across the river. Shrill cries came from the shadows beyond the water, but nothing could be seen. Frodo looked up at the elf, standing tall above him, as he gazed into the night, seeking a mark to shoot at. His head was dark, crowned with sharp white stars that glittered in the black pools of the sky behind. But now a great cloud was mounting up, sweeping out of the southern sky, and its shadow veiled the stars.
A sudden dread fell on the company. Elbereth Gilthoniel,
sighed Legolas as he looked up. Even as he did so, a dark shape like a cloud and yet not a cloud, for it moved far more swiftly, came out of the blackness in the south and sped towards the company, blotting out all light as it approached. Soon it appeared as a great winged creature, blacker than the pits in the night. Fierce voices rose in a wild yell across the water. Frodo felt a sudden chill running through him and clutching at his heart. It was a cold, deathly feeling, like a memory of an old wound in his shoulder. He crouched down as if to hide. Suddenly the great bow of Lorien sang. The arrow sped straight and cold from the bowstring of the elf. Frodo looked up. The shadow of the wings swerved away close above him and passed. There was a harsh, croaking scream as it fell out of the air, vanishing down into the darkness of the eastern shore. The sky was clean again. There was a tumult of many voices far away, cursing and wailing in the night, and then silence. Neither arrow nor cry came again from the east that night. After a while, Aragorn led the boats back upstream. They went along the water by instinct until they found a small bay. A few low trees grew near the water's edge, and behind them was a high rocky bank. Here the fellowship decided to stay and wait until dawn. Trying to go further in the dark would be useless. They did not set up camp or light a fire, but drew the boats close together and lashed them. Galadriel's bow, the arm and eyes of Legolas are marvellous, Gimli said, crunching on a piece of lembas bread.
It was a great shot in the dark, my friend.
But who can say whether it hit? Legolas said. I cannot say, Gimli replied. But I am glad the darkness is not so near any more.
I do not like it at all.
It reminds me of the darkness of Moria, the darkness of the Balrog, he finished in a whisper. That was not a Balrog, Frodo said, still shivering under a chill that had overtaken him. It was something even colder.
I think it was... Here he stopped and fell silent. What do you think it was?
Boromir asked eagerly, leaning out from his cloak as if trying to read Frodo's face. I think... No, I will not say, Frodo replied. Whatever it was, its fall has dampened our enemy's spirits. Apparently so, Aragorn said. But where are they, how many, and what will they do next? We do not know.
Tonight none of us will sleep.
Right now the darkness hides us, but who can say what the day will reveal? Be ready, weapons in hand. Sam placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, as if counting his fingers, and looked up at the sky. Strange, he muttered. The moon seems like it does back in the Shire and in Wilderland, or at least it should. But either it has stopped moving, or I am entirely mistaken. Remember, Mr. Frodo, the moon was waning when we lay on the flet in that tree. I thought it would be a week before the full moon. And a week has passed since that night, when a thin new moon rose like a scratch.
As if we had never stayed in the elves' land at all. Yes.
I can certainly recall 3 nights, and I seem to remember many other things. Yet I swear not a full month has passed. Everyone feels as though time does not flow here, and that may be true, Frodo said. In this land, we may be in a time stream long past elsewhere. I think it is only when the silver stream carries us back to the Anduin that we return to the time flowing over the mortal lands to the great sea. And I recall no moon.
New or old, in Caras Galadon, only stars at night and the sun by day. Legolas stirred in his boat.
No, time is never delayed, he said, but all things change and grow in different lands. For the elves the world moves, and it moves both fast and slow. Fast, because they themselves change little and everything else slips by. That is their misfortune. Slow, because they do not count the passing years. They are not meant for them. The years pass only as small waves repeating in a deep, long stream. Yet behind the sun, everything reaches its end in the end. But weariness comes slowly in Lorien, Frodo said. The lady's power radiates there. Time is full in Caras Galadon, though it may seem brief, where Galadriel wears the elf ring. Do not speak of that outside Lorien, even to me, Aragorn said.
Say no more.
But so it is, Sam. In this land you will lose your ability to measure. Time here passes quickly for us, as it does for the elves. The old moon has passed, and a new crescent rises in the outer world, while we remain trapped here. And yesterday evening a new moon appeared again. Winter is drawing near. Time flows along a slender thread of hope. The night passed quietly. No sound or shouting came across the water. The travellers, huddled together in the boats, felt the change in the weather. The air grew warmer and utterly still under the heavy, wet clouds drifting above the south and distant shores. The river's swift flow past the rocks seemed louder and closer. The branches above began to drip. When day came, the world around them began to appear soft and melancholy. Dawn slowly spread a pale light, diffused, driving away the darkness. The river was free of mist, and the white fog cutting across the banks made the far shores invisible. I cannot bear the mist, Sam said, but perhaps this is lucky. Now we can go without those cursed orcs spying on us. Perhaps, Aragorn said. But now it will be difficult to find a path until the fog clears, and we must find it if we wish to cross San Gebir and enter Emyn Muil. I see no reason to pass the falls or follow the river further, Boromir said. If Emyn Muil lies just ahead, we can leave these small boats, travel west and south, until we reach the Entwash and enter my lands. We could do that if we wanted to reach Minas Tirith, Aragorn said, but it is not yet decided, and such a path may be more dangerous than we think. The Entwash Valley is flat and marshy, and the fog there is terrible for those walking and carrying loads.
I will not abandon our boats unless compelled.
At least the river is a path we cannot lose. But the enemy holds the eastern bank, Boromir argued. And even if you pass the Argonath gates and reach Tindrock safely, then what? Jump the falls and go across the marshes?
No, Aragorn replied.
I choose that we carry our boats along the ancient road to the foot of Rauros, and from there back to the water. Do you not know, Boromir? Or do you choose to forget the north steps and the high banks above Amon Hen, made in the days of the great kings? At least I wish to stand on that height before deciding our path. From there we may see guiding signs. Boromir argued this choice for some time. But when it became clear that Frodo would follow Aragorn wherever he went, Boromir gave up. Abandoning friends in need is not the way of men of Minas Tirith, he said, and you will need my strength if you still wish to reach Tindrock. I will go to the High Island, but no further. From there, I will return home alone if my help is not deserved by any companion. By now the day was clear, and much of the fog had lifted, Everyone decided that Aragorn and Legolas would go ahead along the riverbank, while the others remained in the boats. Aragorn hoped to find a path that would allow them to carry both boats and gear to calmer waters below the falls. "Perhaps the elven boats will not sink," he said, "but that does not mean we will survive San Gaebir. This has never been done before. No road was made by men of Gondor in this land, for even in their days of glory, their realm did not reach the Anduin beyond Emin Muil. But there is a trade path on the west bank if I can find it. It is safe, as one can travel by light boats from Wilderland down to Osgiliath, and continue so until a few years ago, before the orcs of Mordor began to spread. In my time, few boats went north, and the orcs lingered on the east bank," Boromir said. "If you go forward, the danger will increase with each mile, even if you find a path." "Danger lies on every southern route," Aragorn replied. "Wait for us a day. If we do not return in time, you will know that the evil has truly struck us down. Then you must choose a new leader and follow him with what you have." It was heavy for Frodo to watch Aragorn and Legolas climb the slopes and disappear into the mist, but his fear proved baseless. Only 2 or 3 hours later, still just midday, the shadows of the scouts appeared again. "All is well," Aragorn said as he climbed down the bank. "There is a path, and it leads down to a land still passable. The distance is not great. The head of the falls is only half a mile below us, and it is little more than a mile long. The river below returns to a calm and clear state, though it still flows swiftly. Our hardest work will be to carry the boats and gear overland. We have found it, but it lies back from the water here and flows beneath the shelter of the rock wall, about a furlong or more from the shore. We did not find a northern landing. If it exists, we must have passed it last night. We could go far upstream and still miss it in the darkness. I fear now we must leave the river and follow the path overland as far as we can." "Not easy, even if we were all men," Boromir said. "But we shall try," Aragorn replied. "Very well, we will do it," Gimli said. "A man's legs often falter on rough ground, while a dwarf still marches steadily, carrying twice his weight, Mr. Boromir." The task proved very difficult, but finally it was accomplished. The gear was taken from the boats and carried to the shore, where there was a flat stretch of land. Then the boats were hauled out of the water. They were much lighter than anyone had imagined. They were made from trees growing in the lands of the elves that even Legolas did not know. Yet the wood was hard, yet strangely light. Merry and Pippin alone could carry their boat easily over the flat ground. However, it required the strength of 2 men to lift and drag them over the terrain the fellowship crossed. The path rose steeply from the river, across a slope of grey limestone, with many hidden holes covered by grass and shrubs, thick raspberry bushes, small valleys. Here and there pools with trickling water from the grass leading inward. Boromir and Aragorn carried each boat up, while the others crawled behind with the gear. At last all had been transferred to the overland path. From here few obstacles remained, except for tangled fern forests and scattered rocks which they overcame together. Mist still hung over the undulating rock wall, and to their left a fog wrapped around the river. They could hear it flowing and splashing over the sharp banks and jagged teeth of San Gaebir, but they could not see it. They repeated the journey twice, first to find a safe southern landing. It was a trade path turning back to the water's edge, running down a narrow edge of a small pool. It seemed carved from the riverbank, not by hand, but by the swirling waters from San Gaebir pouring off a low rock bank. Behind it was a steep channel leading to a grey rock face, and no further footpath extended from there. A short afternoon passed, and darkness fell with heavy black clouds. They sat by the water, listening to the rushing river and the roar of the falls hidden behind the mist. They were weary and sleepy, and their hearts felt as gloomy as the fading afternoon. "Here we are, and we must endure another night," Boromir said. "We need sleep, and even if Aragorn intended to pass the Argonath gates by night, we are too tired, except no doubt for our steadfast dwarf friend." Gimli did not answer. His head bowed as he sat. "Let us rest as much as we can," Aragorn said.
"Tomorrow we march all day."
"Unless the weather changes and deceives us again, we will have a good chance to pass without being seen by any eyes on the eastern shore. But tonight, two must keep watch in turns, changing every 3 hours." Nothing worse happened that night than a light drizzle about an hour before dawn. As soon as daylight fully came, they set out. The mist was thin. They tried to stay close to the western bank, and they could make out the vague shapes of rising low cliffs, dark walls emerging from the swift water. By mid-morning, clouds lowered further, and the rain began to fall heavily. They covered the boats with tarps to keep them dry and pressed on. It was difficult to see ahead or around them through the grey curtain descending. However, the rain did not last long. The sky above gradually brightened, and then suddenly the clouds parted, and they trudged along the trail leading north of the river. The mist had cleared. Ahead of the travellers was a wide gorge with towering cliffs converging above narrow cracks, a few trees rising. The canyon narrowed and the river flowed faster. Now they moved quickly with little hope of stopping or turning back, regardless of what awaited ahead. Above them was a pale blue sky, around them the shifting river, and ahead the dark, deep hills of Emin Muil, completely blocking the sun, leaving no gap to see through. Frodo looked ahead and saw from afar 2 large cliffs approaching. They were like towering spires or stone pillars. They were high, steep, and imposing, standing on either side of the river. Between them was a narrow gap, and the river carried the boat toward it. "Look at the Argonath, the pillars of the kings," Aragorn called. "We shall soon pass between them. Keep the boats in line, as far apart as possible."
"Keep the boats in the middle of the stream."
As Frodo was carried toward them, the great pillars appeared like towers greeting him. They seemed enormous, their silent but threatening shadows looming over him. Then he saw their true shape and design, ancient works of authority carved into them, still preserved through the forgotten years with the same majesty as when created. On the large bases deep in the water stood 2 colossal stone kings. They remained silent, with dim and cracked eyes, staring north. Each held an axe in the right hand. Atop each head was a broken helmet and crown. They exuded an imposing authority, the silent guardians of kingdoms long vanished. Terror and fear fell upon Frodo, and he crouched, eyes shut, not daring to look as the boat neared. Even Boromir bowed his head as the boats slipped over small leaves beneath the eternal shadow of Númenórean watchers. They passed into the dark gap of the gates. The sheer cliffs rose to an unmeasurable height on both sides. The sky dimmed above. The dark waters roared, and the wind shrieked around them. Frodo bent low over his knees and heard Sam ahead, muttering and groaning, "What place is this?"
"A dreadful place."
"Get me out of this boat, and I will never set foot in a puddle again, let alone a river." "Do not fear,"
a strange voice called from behind.
Frodo looked back and saw the ranger, but not the ranger he knew, for the weather-beaten figure was gone. Aragorn, son of Arathorn, sat upright, proud and true, guiding the boat with deft movements. His hood tossed behind, black hair fluttering in the wind, a gleam in his eyes, a king from afar returning to his land. "Do not fear," he said. "Long have I dreamed to see Isildur and Anarion thus, my ancient forebears. Under their shadow, Elisar, Elfstone, son of Arathorn, of the house of Valandil, heir of Isildur, son of Elendil, need not fear." Then the light in his eyes faded and he spoke to himself. "Gandalf was here. My heart longs to see Minas Anor and the walls of my city. But now where shall I go?" The gorge was long and dark, filled with the sounds of wind, flowing water, and echoing stone. It bent slightly toward the western bank, making it dark at first. But Frodo soon saw a high light ahead, growing larger. It approached swiftly, and suddenly the boat shot through, drifting into a wide, bright space ahead. The sun, already far past noon, shone over the windy skies. The waters poured into a long oval lake, encircling Nen Hithoel, enclosed by high grey wooded hills, though their summits were bare, shining coldly in the sunlight. Far south, 3 mountain peaks rose. The central peak stood above the others, encompassing them, an island in the water, with branches of the river flowing faintly. In the distance, but deep, a wind blew, rumbling like thunder somewhere. "Look at Tol Brandir," Aragorn said, pointing south where the high peak stood. "To the left is Amon Lor, to the right Amon Hen, the hills of sight and hearing. In the days of the great kings, posts were there and watch stations set. But it is said no man or beast has ever set foot on Tol Brandir. We shall reach it before night falls."
I've heard the voice of Rauros echoing without end.
The fellowship rested for a while, drifting along the current into the center of the lake. They ate a little food, then took up the oars and hurried onward. The western slopes of the hills cast dark shadows, and the sun became round and red. Stars shone here and there. The 3 mountain peaks loomed dimly ahead, hazy in the twilight. Rauros roared with dreadful sounds. Night had fallen over the flowing waters as the travellers finally reached the shadow of the hills. The 10th day of their journey had passed. Wilderland lay behind them. They could go no further without choosing between the eastern path and the western. The final stage of the quest lay ahead. Chapter 58. The breaking of the fellowship Aragorn led them to the right of the river. On its western slope, under the shadow of Tol Brandir, lay a green meadow sloping down to the water at the foot of Amon Hen. Behind it, a wooded hill rose gently, with trees spreading westward around the lake shore. A small stream flowed down, nourishing the grassy forest. "We shall rest here tonight," Aragorn said. "This is the meadow of Parth Galen, a place very fair in the long-ago summers. Let us hope no dark spirits come this way tonight." They hauled the boats onto the green shore and made camp beside them. Guards were posted, yet there was no sign or sound of their enemies. If Gollum still followed them, he could neither be seen nor heard. Yet when night fell, Aragorn grew uneasy. He often fidgeted and stirred in his sleep. After a few hours, he awoke and went to Frodo, who was on watch. "Why are you awake?" Frodo asked. "It is not your turn." "I do not know," Aragorn replied, "but a shadow and a threat grew in my sleep." "Perhaps you should draw your sword." "Why?" Frodo said.
Is the enemy close?
"Let us see what Sting reveals," Aragorn said. Frodo drew his elf sword from its sheath. To his alarm, the blade glimmered faintly in the dark.
"Orcs," he said.
"Not very close, but seeming fairly near." "I feared as much," Aragorn said. "But perhaps they have not yet reached the riverbank. Sting's light is weak, and what it shows may be nothing more than a few spies of Mordor lurking near the slopes of Amon Lor. I have never before heard of orcs on Amon Hen, but who knows what may happen these days. Minas Tirith no longer guarantees the safety of Anduin's paths. We must be vigilant tomorrow." Then dawn came, like fire and smoke. Low in the east, dark clouds appeared like smoke, rising from a great fire. The sun rose behind them, glowing with a dim red light. But soon it emerged above them in a clear sky. The summit of Tol Brandir shone with gold. Frodo glanced eastward and stared at the tall island. Its edge rose above the flowing river. The high cliffs above were thick with trees, one growing atop another, and above them lay the grey face of an unclimbable cliff encircled by a massive spiral of stone. Many birds circled it, yet no sign of other life could be seen. After their meal, Aragorn called the fellowship together. "The day has come at last," he said, "the day of the choice we have long delayed. What has formed among us in our fellowship after coming so far in friendship? Shall we turn west with Boromir and join the battle at Gondor?
Or eastward with fear and shadow?
Or shall we break the fellowship, each going the path he chooses? Whatever we do, we must act soon. We cannot linger here. The enemy is on the western bank, as we know, but I fear the orcs may already be along the riverside. A long silence followed. No one spoke or moved. "Very well, Frodo," Aragorn finally said. "I fear the burden now falls upon you. You are the ring-bearer appointed by the council. You may choose your path alone."
"I cannot advise you in this matter."
"I am not Gandalf, and even if I tried to act as he would, I could not know what he intended or hoped at this hour, if he had any intention or hope. The most likely course seems that if he were here, he would still wait for your choice. It is your fate." Frodo did not answer at once. Then he spoke slowly.
"I know it must be done quickly, but I cannot choose."
"The burden is too heavy."
"Give me an hour, and I will speak. Leave me alone."
Aragorn looked at him with deep sympathy. "Very well, Frodo, son of Drogo," he said. "You shall have an hour, and you shall be alone. We will stay here a while. But do not go out of calling distance." Frodo sat for a time, head bowed. Sam watched him closely, shaking his head and muttering, "Clear as a spear." Yet if Sam spoke his mind now, it would not be good. Frodo then rose and wandered about. Sam noticed that while the others had wandered away, not watching him, Boromir's eyes followed Frodo intently until he disappeared among the trees at the base of Amon Hen. Wandering aimlessly in the forest, Frodo found his feet leading him up the slopes of the hill. He followed a path, a ruined relic of a once great road. Stones had been carved into it, but now they were broken and worn, blocked by roots. He climbed for a while, paying no mind to where he went, until he reached a grassy area. Tea-scented shrubs grew around it, and in the midst of the mist lay a broad, flat stone. The small meadow above stretched eastward, bathed in morning sunlight. Frodo paused, looking down at the river far below, leading to Tol Brandir and the birds circling in the vast expanse between him and the uninhabited island. The echoes of Rauros roared from the distant void. He sat on a rock, resting his chin in his hands, looking westward, though his eyes saw little. Everything since Bilbo left the Shire passed through his mind. He recalled all he could remember of Gandalf's words. Time went on, yet he had come no closer to a choice. Suddenly he snapped from his thoughts. He felt a strange sensation that something was behind him, unfriendly eyes watching. He sprang up and spun around, but to his surprise, all he saw was Boromir, smiling cheerfully. "I feared for you, Frodo," he said, stepping forward. "If Aragorn is right and the orcs approach, no one can go alone, and you are the weakest. Much depends on you." "And my heart is heavy. May I stay here and speak a while, since I have found you? It will make me feel better. There is much out there, and all opinions have turned to endless arguments. But together the two of you may find wisdom." "You are very kind," Frodo replied, "but I do not think any advice can help me. For I know what I ought to do, yet I am afraid to do it, Boromir." Afraid, Boromir stood silently. Rauros still roared unceasingly. The wind rustled through the trees. Frodo shivered. Suddenly Boromir stepped forward and sat beside him.
"Are you sure you're not afraid unnecessarily?"
he said. "I want to help you. You need counsel in your hard choice. Will you not take my advice?" "I think I already know what advice you would give me, Boromir," Frodo said, "and it is like a warning gnawing at my heart." "A warning? Warning against what?" Boromir asked coldly. "Against delay."
"Against the path that seems easier."
"Against shirking the burden on my shoulders." "Against, yes, if I must say it, against believing in the power and truth of men. But that power has protected you long since you left your small village, whether you know it or not. I do not doubt the worth of men, but the world is changing. The walls of Minas Tirith may be strong, yet they are not enough. If they fall, what then? We shall fall bravely in battle, yet still there is hope that we shall not fall. There is no hope while the ring still exists, Frodo said. Ah,
The ring!
Boromir said, his eyes flashing.
The ring!
That so small a thing should bear such fear and doubt. What a strange fate. So small. And I have only glimpsed it once in Elrond's house. May I see it again? Frodo looked up. His heart suddenly grew cold. He saw a strange light in Boromir's eyes, though his face remained cheerful and friendly. It is best kept hidden, he replied. As you wish, I do not mind, Boromir said.
But can I not even speak of it?
For it seems you only think of its power in the enemy's hands, of its evil influence, not the good it might do. The world may change, you say. Minas Tirith will fall if the ring remains. But why? Surely so, if the ring is with the enemy, but why if it is with us? Were you not at the council? Frodo replied. Because we cannot use it, and those who do become wraiths. Boromir rose and paced restlessly.
You go on like that, he shouted.
Gandalf, Elrond, all those people teach you to speak so. They themselves may be right.
Elves, half-elves, and wizards may yet meet misfortune.
I have long doubted whether they are truly wise and wholly fearless, but each has his own thoughts.
Men are honest, and they will not go astray.
We, the sons of Minas Tirith, have remained loyal through countless trials. We desire not the power of wizards, only the strength to protect ourselves, only strength. And see here, chance has revealed what we need. Power, authority. It is a gift, I say. A gift for the enemies of Mordor. To fail to use it is madness.
Use the enemy's power against him.
Fear not, show them no mercy, only these to achieve victory. What can a warrior do in this hour? A great leader? What can Aragorn do? If he refuses, why not Boromir? The ring may grant me the power to command. I will drive back the armies of Mordor, and all shall rally under my banner. Boromir strode back and forth, speaking ever louder. He almost forgot Frodo, lost in talk of walls and weapons, concentrating forces. He painted visions of great allied armies and glorious victories. He would defeat Mordor and himself become a great, wise, and just king.
Suddenly he stopped and gestured wildly. And they tell us to cast it away,
he shouted. I will not consent to its destruction. That might be well enough, if any cause suggested hope for doing so.
There is none. Only one plan is offered to us, a halfling groping blindly into Mordor, giving the enemy every chance to reclaim it for himself. Madness.
Surely you have seen it, my friend, he said, suddenly turning to Frodo. You say you are afraid. If so, the strongest man will excuse you. But is it not truly your own feeling, this resistance?
I know I am afraid, Frodo said.
Simply afraid. But I am glad to hear you speak so clearly. My mind is now made up. Then you will go to Minas Tirith? Boromir cried.
His eyes shone, his face eager. You misunderstand me, Frodo said, but you will go, at least for a while.
Boromir persisted. My city is not far, and from there to Mordor is no farther. We have been in the wilds long, and you will need news of the enemy's doings before you go. Come with me, Frodo, he said. You need rest before venturing further, if you must. He placed a hand on the hobbit's shoulder, friendly. But Frodo felt it tremble with visible excitement. He quickly stepped aside, eyes wary of the tall man, twice his height and far stronger. Why do you seem so unfriendly? Boromir said.
I am an honest man, not a thief or spy.
I need your ring, now you know. Yet you have my word I do not wish to keep it. May I at least test my plan?
Lend me the ring. No, no,
Frodo cried. The council entrusted it to me. That is because of the foolish notion that the enemy will defeat us, Boromir shouted.
It makes me furious, foolish, obstinate, running to death and spoiling our chance.
If any mortal should have the ring, it is a man of Númenor, not a halfling. It is not yours, except by unlucky chance.
It could have been mine.
It should have been mine.
Give it to me!
Frodo did not answer, but moved toward a large flat stone standing between them.
Come, come, my friend.
Boromir said gently. Why reject it? Why not let doubt and fear go? You may blame me if you will. You may say I am too strong and would seize it by force.
I'm too strong for you, halfling,
he shouted, suddenly leaping over the stone toward Frodo. His fair, cheerful face had changed horribly. A fire of anger blazed in his eyes. Frodo dodged aside again behind a stone between them. He could do only one thing. Trembling, he drew the ring from its chain and hastily slipped it onto his finger, just as Boromir leapt at him again. The man gaped, staring in astonishment, then ran madly, searching among the rocks and trees. You miserable deceiver, he shouted. Beware me! Now I have seen your heart. You will bring the ring to Sauron and betray us all. You wait only for the chance to abandon us in peril.
I curse you and all halflings. May you die in darkness.
Then, tripping on a stone, he fell forward, face down on the ground.
He lay still as if his own curse had struck him, then suddenly wept. He rose and wiped the tears from his eyes. What have I done?
He shouted.
What have I done? Frodo, Frodo,
he called. Come back!
I was mad, but it has passed. Come back!
There was no answer.
Frodo did not even hear him.
He was far away, leaping onto a path leading to the hilltop. Terror and grief stunned him, Boromir's furious, flaming-eyed face still in view. He climbed alone to the summit of Amon Hen, then stopped, gasping. Through the mist, he saw a large flat circle, paved with great flags, surrounded by the broken remains of a battlefield, and at its center, on 4 carved pillars, was a high seat reached by many steps. He climbed and sat upon the ancient chair, feeling like a child clambering onto the throne of the Mountain Kings. At first, he could see little. The world seemed misted, filled with shadows. The ring covered him. Then the mist cleared here and there, and he saw many scenes, small and distinct, as if laid beneath his eyes on a table, yet far away.
No sound, only vivid images shining.
The world seemed compressed, silent. He was sitting on the seat of seeing atop Amon Hen, the hill of the Eye of Man in Númenor. To the east he saw unexplored lands, nameless plains, untrodden forests. To the north lay the great river, flowing like a frozen ribbon beneath him, the misty mountains, small and rigid as broken teeth. To the west stretched the wide plains of Rohan, and Orthanc, the tower of Isengard, stood like a black spike. To the south, the great river curved like a wavering wave into the Rauros Falls, a rainbow hanging suspended over the spray. He saw the Anduin Delta, vast and fertile, countless seabirds circling like bright dust in sunlight, and below them the silver-blue waves of the river rippling endlessly. But wherever he looked, he saw signs of war. The misty mountains teemed like an anthill. Orcs poured from thousands of holes. Beneath the trees of Mirkwood lay traces of fierce battles of elves and men, fallen beasts. Beorning lands burned. A cloud covered Moria, smoke rising from Lorien's borders. Riders thundered across the Rohan plains.
Wolves swarmed from Isengard.
From the ports of Harad, warships sailed. Beyond the eastern shores, men moved unceasingly. Swordsmen, spearmen, horse archers, wagons carrying leaders and goods. All the power of the Dark Lord was in motion. Looking south, he saw Minas Tirith. It seemed distant, yet incredibly fair. White walls, many towers, proud and beautiful atop the hill. Battlements gleaming steel, small towers waving many flags. Hope rose in his heart. Yet opposite Minas Tirith stood another fortress, larger and stronger. His reluctant, sorrowful eyes followed eastward, across destroyed bridges of Osgiliath, the gaping gates of Minas Morgul, the haunted mountains, and upward to Gorgoroth, the dreadful valley of Mordor. Darkness lay beneath the sun, fires burned amid smoke.
Mount Doom blazed, stinking fumes rose.
Finally his gaze rested. Walls, battlements one after another, black and mighty, a mountain of steel, gates of tempered iron, a tower unyielding. He had seen it. Barad-dûr, Sauron's fortress. All hope left him. Then suddenly he felt the eye. There was an eye in the dark tower that did not sleep. He knew it was gradually recognizing his gaze. There was a wild frenzy there. It surged toward him. He could almost feel it like a finger seeking him. It quickly pressed down upon him. It knew exactly where he was. It was touching Amon-Lor. It glanced at Tol Brandir, and he rushed down from the chair, crouching, pulling his grey hood over his head. He heard himself shouting, "Never, never," or perhaps like this, "I am truly coming. I will come to you, yes?" He could not speak. Then several points of power suddenly flared in his mind like lightning. Take it off.
Take it off! Fool, take it off. Remove the ring.
Two powers wrestled within him. For a moment, these fiercely contending points reached perfect balance, and he writhed in pain. Suddenly he recognized himself again. Frodo, not the voice or the eye. He was free to choose, and for a moment only one action remained. He took the ring off his finger. He knelt in the bright sunlight before the high seat. A shadow seemed to pass above him. It vanished from Amon Hen and groped westward, then disappeared. Then the whole sky became clear, and the birds sang again from every treetop. Frodo stood up. A great weariness came over him, but his mind was firm, and his heart lightened. He said aloud to himself, "Now I will do what I must," he said. At least it is clear the ring's evil influence always works, even within the Fellowship, and the ring must be removed from them before it can do more harm. I will go alone. I cannot trust anyone, and those I do trust are too close to me. Poor old Sam, Merry, and Pippin. Strider too, his heart is set on Minas Tirith, and they need him there, for now Boromir has fallen toward evil. I will go alone.
At once. He quickly went down the path and returned to the clearing where Boromir was seeking him.
Then he stopped and listened. He thought he could hear shouting and calling from the nearby forest along the river below. "They are hunting for me," he said. "I wonder how long I have evaded them."
I think it has been hours. He hesitated.
"What can I do now?" he murmured.
Now I must go, or I will never go. I will not have another chance. I hate to leave them like this without explanation.
"But surely they will understand."
Sam will understand.
"And what else can I do?" He slowly took the ring off and put it back on. He vanished and ran down the hill, lighter than a blowing wind. The others stayed by the river for quite a while. They were silent for a time, pacing continuously. But now they sat in a circle and spoke. Occasionally they tried to discuss other matters, the long, perilous journey ahead. They asked Aragorn about the kingdom of Gondor and its ancient history, about the ruins of its great work still visible on the strange borders of Emin Muil, the stone kings and the chairs at Lor and Hen, and the great stair by the Rauros Falls. But their thoughts and words always returned to Frodo and the ring. What had Frodo chosen?
Why did he hesitate?
"He has considered which path is the most perilous, I think," Aragorn said.
And he can do it?
"Now going east is even less hopeful for the Fellowship, for Gollum is tracking us, and we must always fear that our secret journey has been betrayed. But Minas Tirith is no nearer to the fire and the burden's destruction. We can remain here for a while and show courage, but Lord Denethor and his people cannot hope for what even Elrond says beyond his power, even to keep the burden secret or to keep the enemy's mind away from it when he comes to take it. What would we choose if we were in Frodo's place?
I do not know.
But now is when we most remember Gandalf. Our loss is grievous," Legolas said. "But we must determine our minds without his help.
Why cannot we decide to help Frodo?
Let us call him back and take a vote."
I will vote for Minas Tirith. And I too, Gimli said.
We, of course, are sent only to help the ring-bearer along the way, and we wish nothing more, and none of us is bound by any vow or command to go to Mount Doom. My separation from Lothlorien has been hard, but we have gone far, and I can say this. Now we have reached the final choice. Clearly I cannot leave Frodo. I will choose Minas Tirith, but if he does not go there, I will follow him, and I too will go with him, Legolas said. To speak farewell now would be deceitful. Truly it would be a betrayal if we all left him, Aragorn said. But if he goes east, then all must go with him. But I do not think all should go. This journey will be very perilous for 8, for 2 or 3, or for only 1. If you leave it to me, I will appoint 3 companions, Sam, who can accept nothing else, and Gimli.
And myself.
Boromir will return to his city, where his father and people need him.
And the others will go with him, or at least Meriadoc and Peregrine. If Legolas is unwilling to leave us, that cannot be.
Merry shouted.
We cannot leave Frodo.
Pippin and I have always wanted to go wherever he wished, and we have kept on. But we did not realize what that meant. To let Frodo go to Mordor is mad and cruel.
Why do we not stop him? We must stop him, Pippin said.
And I am sure that is what he worries about. He knows we will not consent to his going east.
And he does not want anyone to go with him, poor old friend. Imagine going to Mordor alone.
Pippin shivered. But that dear old hobbit, he should know he need not ask. He should know that if we cannot stop him, we will not leave him. Sorry, Sam said.
I do not think you have fully understood my master.
He does not hesitate about the path he must take.
Certainly not. After all, what gain is Minas Tirith?
I mean for him, forgive me, Lord Boromir, he added and turned back. Then at that moment they discovered that Boromir, who had sat silently outside the circle from the beginning, was no longer there. Where has he gone now? Sam called anxiously. Lately he has been strange.
But anyway, he has nothing to do with me.
He has left to go home, as he always said, and he is not at fault. But Master Frodo, you know he must seek the crack of doom if he can. But he is afraid. Now the point is clear. He is plainly only afraid. Is his troublesome matter?
Of course he has been well taught, more than any of us, since we left home. Or he would have been so afraid that he would just throw the ring into the river and run away.
But he is too afraid to set out, and he is not afraid of us, whether we go with him or not. He knows what we are doing. That is another thing that lingers over him. Because he has resolved to go, he will go alone.
Mark my words.
We shall have trouble when we return. He has resolved to go as surely as if his name were Baggins. I believe you speak wiser than any of us, Sam, Aragorn said. And what shall we do if your words are true?
Stop him! Don't let him go!
Pippin shouted. I wonder if we should,
Aragorn said.
He is the ring-bearer, and the fate of the burden rests upon him. I do not think our part is to steer him this way or that. Nor do I think we would succeed if we tried. There are other powers at work far stronger. Very well, I wish Frodo would resolve and return, and we let it end, Pippin said.
This waiting is dreadful.
Surely the time is near. Yes, Aragorn said. Time has passed long enough. The morning has long gone. We must call him. At that moment Boromir appeared again. He came out from the trees and walked toward them without a word. His face looked stern and sorrowful. He stopped as if counting those present, and then sat apart, eyes fixed on the ground. Where have you been, Boromir?
Aragorn asked. Have you seen Frodo?
Boromir hesitated for a moment. Yes and no, he answered slowly. Yes, I found him on the path up the hill. I wanted him to go to Minas Tirith and not east.
I became angry, and he left me. He disappeared.
I have never seen such a thing happen before, though I have heard of it in legend. He must have put the ring on.
I cannot find him again. I think he has returned to you. Is that all you have to say?
Aragorn said, looking at Boromir intently and not very kindly. Yes, Boromir replied.
I will say no more. This is terrible,
Sam cried, leaping up. I do not know what this man intends. Why did Master Frodo put that thing on? He should not have done so.
If he did, only heaven knows what might happen. But he will not wear it, Merry said.
Unless he must hide from uninvited guests like that Bilbo.
But where has he gone?
Where is he? Pippin shouted. He must be far away by now. When was the last time you saw Frodo, Boromir?
Aragorn asked. 30 minutes maybe, he replied. Or maybe an hour. I have wandered about since then. I don't know.
He buried his head in his hands, sitting down in despair. An hour since he vanished,
Sam cried.
We must try to find him at once.
Come on, wait a moment,
Aragorn called. We must split into pairs and reorganize. Wait, no one paid attention. Sam was the first to rush off. Merry and Pippin followed, disappearing westward into the rows of trees along the river, calling out loudly, Frodo!
Frodo! In their clear, high-pitched hobbit voices.
Legolas and Gimli ran. A sense of fear or madness seemed to fall over the fellowship. We will be scattered and lost, Aragorn groaned.
Boromir! I don't know what game you are playing in this disaster, but lend a hand.
Chase after the two young hobbits, and at least protect them, even if you cannot find Frodo. Return here if you find him, or any trace of him.
I will come back immediately. Aragorn rushed to follow Sam. As he reached the small clearing by the clumps of tea shrubs, he caught up with Sam, who was running up the hill, panting and calling out, Frodo!
Come with me, Sam, he said. None of us should go alone. There is a danger about here, I feel it. I will go up to the summit, to the seat of Amon Hen, to see what can be seen. And look, just as my heart guessed, Frodo went this way. Follow me and watch carefully. He ran along the path. Sam tried his best, but he could not keep up with the ranger, and soon fell behind. He had gone only a little before Aragorn vanished from sight ahead. Sam stopped and panted.
Suddenly he slapped his forehead. Whoa, Sam Gamgee,
he exclaimed.
Short legs, so use your head. Look here.
Boromir did not lie. That is not like him. But he did not tell us everything. There is something that made old Bilbo terribly afraid. Suddenly he has resolved with determination.
At least he has made up his mind to go.
Where? Eastward.
Not a Sam? Yes, not even Sam. How stern to cruelty. Sam raised his hand to his eyes, wiping away tears.
Steady now, Gamgee,
he said. Think if you can.
He cannot fly across the river, and he cannot leap over the waterfall. He has no supplies, so he must have gone back to the boats. Back to the boats.
Back to the boats, said Sam, like lightning.
Sam turned and dashed down the path. He fell and scraped his knees. He jumped up again and ran. He rushed to the grassy bank of Path Galen by the river, where the boats were floating.
No one was there.
There seemed to be cries from the forest behind, but he paid them no mind. He paused, frozen, mouth open. A boat was drifting down the shore. Sam ran silently, catching the drifting boat. He slipped about a yard. With a splash and a thud, he fell face first into the fast-flowing water. He gurgled below, the river covering his tangled hair. A cry rang out from the empty boat. An oar swung and the boat wavered. Frodo arrived just in time to grab Sam's hair as he surfaced, gasping and thrashing. "My Sam, up now!" Frodo said.
Come, take my hand. Save me, Master Frodo,
Sam panted.
I am drowning. I cannot see your hand. Here, don't pinch, friend. I will not let go.
Paddle and don't bob again, or you will capsize the boat now. With a few attempts, Frodo brought the boat to shore, and Sam was able to crawl up, wet as an otter. Frodo took off the ring and stood on the bank. "You are the worst of the surprisingly worst, Sam,"
he said. Oh, Master Frodo, you are too determined.
Sam shivered. Too determined, intending to go without me and everyone else.
If I'm not mistaken, how far have you already gone? Safe on my path. Safe, Sam said.
Completely alone and without me to help?
I cannot bear that. It is dreadful to me. The fact that you come to me is dreadful. Sam, Frodo said, and I cannot bear it. This cannot be like being left behind, Sam said, but I will go to Mordor. I know that well, Master Frodo. Of course you will.
And I will go with you. Now, Sam, Frodo said, do not hinder me. The others will return at any moment. If they catch me here, I will have to argue and explain, and I will never have the mind to set out again. But I must go at once.
That is the only path. Certainly, Sam replied.
But not alone.
I would go too, or none of us go.
I will poke holes in all the boats, Frodo laughed. A warm, happy feeling flooded his heart. Leave one.
We will need it.
But you cannot go like this without gear, food, or anything else. Just a moment, Master, and I will get my supplies right away, Sam called eagerly. All is ready.
I think today we will set out. He dashed to the camp,
Pulled his belongings from the pile Frodo had left when clearing the companions' gear from the boat, grabbed a spare blanket and some food pouches,
and ran back. So all my plans are undone, Frodo said.
Trying to hide from you was useless. But I am very glad, Sam. I cannot tell you how glad I am.
Come on, clearly we must be together.
We will go, and perhaps the others will find a safe way.
Strider will watch over them. I do not think we will see them again. But we can. Master Frodo, we can, Sam said. So Frodo and Sam set out together for the final stage of the quest. Frodo rowed the boat from the shore,
And the river carried them swiftly downstream, westward, past the threatening cliffs of Tol Brandir. The roar of the great falls drew nearer. Even with Sam's help, it was difficult to navigate the waters at the southern end of the island and steer the boat eastward toward the distant shore. At last, they landed on the southern cliffs of Amon Lor. They found a sloping riverside, beached the boat high above the water, and hid it behind a large bank. Then they slung their packs over their shoulders and set out, seeking a path that could lead them over the grey hills of Emin Muil and down into the shadowed realm. Here ends the first part of the history of the War of the Ring. The second part is called The Two Towers, because its events are dominated by Orthanc, Saruman's fortress and the fortress of Minas Morgul, guarding the secret passage into Mordor. It tells of the deeds and dangers of members who are no longer bound by fellowship until the great darkness descends. The third part recounts the final defense against the darkness and the conclusion of the ring-bearer's quest in the return of the king.